Hey guys, Tyro here bringing you this starter series tutorial on garrisonable cover. First up we have ambient buildings, what most players refer to as garrisons. These are buildings on the map that you can put your infantry in that give you defensive bonuses. Small buildings tend to have less windows and doors, and this is important because squads can only enter or exit a building from a particular side on a building if it has a door on that side. Large buildings tend to have more doors, allowing for more versatile entry and exit, but also more windows. Only one infantry model can shoot per window facing that direction. This often means that buildings are good against certain directions, but poor against the other directions. Also, in terms of combat effectiveness, it is almost never a good idea to put more than one squad in a building. This is because there will not be enough windows in the correct direction for all the troops inside of the building to fire. Some buildings even have no windows in certain directions. In these cases, outside units can still fire in, but you can't fire back. Some units, such as heavy machine guns, are still effective with just one window. This is because one weapon does the majority of the squad's damage. Every unit shooting out of a window gets the same firing arc that you can see here. Even units such as the Maxim, which usually has a narrow cone of fire, gets the much wider arc once garrisoned inside a building. Small buildings have less health than large buildings, and those made from stone or concrete are significantly more durable than those made from wood. When a building is destroyed, all units inside it at the time are also killed. Buildings can also be destroyed by fire damage. If you see a building catch fire like this, be sure to hop out as it is about to collapse. Buildings can be destroyed by most vehicles ramming into them. Note in this case I've already used this tank to destroy one entire side of a building. Now when I try to run into the building on this side, I am unable to do any more damage to it. However, when I switch sides, I am able to damage it again. Most buildings will require you to destroy two sides before they collapse. It is significantly easier to destroy buildings with large vehicles like tanks than it is with small vehicles such as scout cars. So if we take a look at the numbers for garrisons, we can see that despite sharing an icon with heavy cover, the protection they afford is actually quite different. With received accuracy of 0.55 rather than 0.5 for heavy cover and the same amount of received damage, garrison cover is actually slightly worse against small arms fire. We can see this visualized here with the combat engineer shooting at the squad inside the garrison. Despite being at point blank range, he's missing quite often, and when the shots do connect, they're doing 8 damage rather than the full 16. This also demonstrates that garrison cover will provide protection against small arms fire even at point blank range, unlike heavy or light cover. When it comes to other forms of damage, things get even more different. Received damage from things such as mortars or tanks reduced to 25%, much better than heavy cover's 50%. However, it offers no protection against grenades, whereas heavy cover will halve the damage. So here we have a 4-man squad shooting out of all 4 windows at this side of the building, putting them all in quite a small area. Grenades deal 80 damage and infantry have 80 health, making it possible for one grenade to kill an entire squad inside the garrison because it is not offering any protection. Here's a slightly different scenario. Now all 4 of the grenadiers are on the other side of the building. Note that you can even see all 4 models firing out of these windows. Now we will toss the same grenade into the same location, but with all the troops on the other side of the building. This time the grenade doesn't even kill a single model, so when using grenades against garrisons, make sure you are aware of where the units are inside the building and toss it at the highest concentration of them. Note that it is quite easy to dodge grenades by jumping out of the building, waiting for the explosion, and then hopping back in. But it is harder to dodge grenades with team weapons that have a long pack-up time, making them unable to exit the building in the nick of time. Units inside garrisons are immune to suppression but take either full or bonus damage from flame weapons. Here we have a machine gun firing at a squad and suppressing them, but what you can do here is crawl into the garrison. Now once you are inside the garrison you are immune to suppression. Now you can simply wait for the suppression to end before exiting the building. This is a good way to avoid unnecessary retreats to suppression. So once again we have all 4 models of a squad down one end of the building. Now we have a flamethrower coming up from the other end. And note, despite there being no models down this end of the building, every model in the building is taking full damage, demonstrating that flamethrowers will damage every unit in the building no matter their position. This also demonstrates that a flamethrower will kill an entire squad in a building with just 4 bursts. Same scenario, all 4 members down one end of the building. This time we're going to be using the area of effect flame damage from the OKW incendiary grenade. I'm going to toss it so it doesn't go too deep into the building. The squad inside took a little bit of damage as the Fox Grenadiers approached to throw the grenade, but you can see that the squad inside is taking no damage over time, demonstrating that AoE flame damage is similar to grenades and it depends on where the squad is inside the building to get its damage done. Next up we have trenches. Trenches can only be occupied by 1 unit at a time. The entry and exit point for trenches are at both of the narrow ends. When team weapons occupy a trench, they can face towards either of the long sides, but not towards the doors. So when assaulting a team weapon in a trench, try to approach from those blind spots. However, when infantry occupy a trench, they can fire out in any direction. Here you can see them firing out into what would be a team weapon's blind spot. Unlike garrisons, trenches cannot be damaged by vehicles running into them. Similar to garrisons, trenches do offer protection against small arms fire, even at point blank range. Demonstrated here with the combat engineer when he does connect, doing 8 instead of his usual 16 damage. The stats and the behaviours of the British and Axis trench are actually quite different, so I'll be splitting them up, and first up is the British trench. The British trench can be built by infantry sections. It costs a small amount of manpower and can be built anywhere on the map, including enemy territory. Only the player who built the British trench is able to use it. Not enemies nor even allies are able to get inside. The same thing applies to infiltration units. As the British player you can spawn them from your own trench, but your enemies and your allies will be unable to.
Army commandos ready to go.
When the British trench is destroyed with units inside it, unlike with garrisons, none of the units inside are harmed by its destruction. Now some of you may have looked up stats and seen tables such as this one for the Mosin that conscripts use. As a side note, this one copied from the excellent website stat.co2.hu. I highly recommend it if you want to look up some unit stats. And you may have noticed that trench is listed here, however neither the British or the Axis trench use these values. The British trench shares the same stats as garrison cover, which we have already gone over in this video, but I'll show them briefly on screen to refresh everybody's memory. And finally, we have the Axis trench. These are available as an ability in certain commanders for both factions. These are free of cost, however they can only be built in connected friendly territory. Any squad, allied or enemy, can enter the Axis trench. Likewise, when it comes to infiltration units, both allies and enemies can spawn them from the Axis trench. When the Axis trench is destroyed, there is a 25% chance for each individual model from the squad inside the garrison to die. In terms of numbers, it gives you the same protection as heavy cover, however it does make you immune to suppression. All these factors combined mean that the Axis trench is quite a bit worse than its British counterpart. That's it for this installment, guys. Be sure to like, subscribe and share it with your friends. You can also support me on Patreon to help ensure I can continue making content like this in the future.